welcome to this first look exploring session, our third session looking at Sir John Oldcastle, the true and honourable history of the life of Sir John Oldcastle, the good Lord Cobham, that fair truth be graced, since forged invention former time defaced. We are a good 2/3 of the way through the play. In the edition we're working from, we're up to Act 4, Scene 3. We've had some rebellion going on. There's been a put down of one rebellion, Muley. We don't precisely know what condign action has been organised against him, but it's not looking like that's going to be good. But those have all been put down, and Lord Cobham has so far managed to thwart his enemies and is doing okay. Whereas Sir John Wrotham, a dodgy priest, has been caught out and is on thin ice. One strike and he's hanged. So he's got to be careful there. To continue our journey into this final sequence of the play, we have this wonderful team of readers. We don't quite have enough readers really to do this section, so we're going to do a lot of dancing. The final scene might be a bit crowded. So reading today: first servants generally, Scroop, Kate, and first watch is
Briony, Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Sumner, Cambridge, Irishman, and Lady Powis is...
That is me, Rachael Nicole, actor in New Jersey.
Reading Harpoole, third servant, Robin, and Lord Powis is...
Then Freitas, writing teacher, Northwestern United States.
Reading Cromer, second servant, King, club, second watch, and very briefly a constable as well is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm in Hull.
Reading a bishop, doll, and mayor is...
Hi, I'm Eric. I have enough identity crises daily. It's fine. I don't know who I am anymore.
Reading Lord Warden, Lieutenant, Host, Lee, and Jailer is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading, and here's really a split personality disorder waiting to happen. Reading Cobham and Wrotham is...
Hello, I'm Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
Reading Lady Cobham, Grey, and Hostler is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading Constable, Carrier, Judge, and Justices, and in fact I am the representative of the entire judiciary, and stage directions as well. There should be some dancing around about who's reading what occasionally when all of what I have just said doesn't work. So without further ado, to find out how badly I've cocked up the schedule, we're going to dive into Act 4, Scene 3. Enter the Bishop, Lord Warden, Cromer the Shreve, Lady Cobham, and attendants.
I tell you, lady, it's not possible, but you should know where he conveys himself, and you have hid him in some secret place.
My lord, believe me, as I have a soul, I know not where my lord, my husband, is.
Go to, ye are an heretic, and will be forced by torture to confess, if fair means will not serve to make ye tell.
My husband is a noble gentleman, and need not hide himself for any fact that e'er I heard of. Therefore, wrong him not.
Your husband is a dangerous schismatic, traitor to God, the king, and commonwealth, and therefore, Master Cromer, Shreve of Kent, I charge you take her to your custody, and seize the goods of Sir John Oldcastle to the king's use. Let her go in no more to fetch so much as her apparel out. There is your warrant from his majesty.
Good my lord, Bishop, pacify your wrath against the lady.
Then let her confess where Oldcastle, her husband, is concealed.
I dare engage mine honour and my life. Poor gentlewoman, she is ignorant and innocent of all his practices, if any evil by him be practised.
If, my lord Warden, nay, then I charge you that all the sank ports whereof you are chief be laid forthwith, that he escape us not. Shew him his highness warrant, Master Shreve.
I am sorry for the noble gentleman.
And enter Oldcastle and Harpoole.
Peace, he comes here. Now do your office.
Harpoole, what business have we here in hand? What makes the bishop and the sheriff here? I fear my coming home is dangerous. I had not made such haste to Cobham.
Be of good cheer, my lord. If they be foes, we'll scramble shrewdly with them. If they be friends, they are welcome. One of them, my lord Warden, is your friend. But methinks my lady weeps, I like not that.
Sir John Oldcastle, Lord Cobham, in the King's Majesty's name, I arrest ye of high treason.
Treason, Master Cromer?
Treason, Master Shreves. Blood, what treason?
Harpoole, I charge thee stir not, but be quiet still. Do you arrest me, Master Shreve, for treason?
Yea, of high treason, traitor, heretic.
In defiance in his face that calls me so. I am as true a loyal gentleman unto his highness as my proudest enemy. The king shall witness my late faithful service for safety of his sacred majesty.
What thou art, the king's hand shall testify. Showed him, Lord Warden.
Jesu defend me. Is possible your cunning could so temper the princely disposition of his mind to sign the damage of a loyal subject? Well, the best is, it bears an antedate procured by my absence and your malice. But I, since that have showed myself as true as any churchman that dare challenge me, let me be brought before his majesty. If he acquit me not, then do your worst.
We are not bound to do king offices for any traitor, schismatic, nor heretic. The king's hand is our warrant for our work, who is departed on his way for France, and at Southampton doth repose this night.
Oh, that it were the blessed will of God that thou and I were within 20 mile of it on Salisbury Plain. I would lose my head if ever thou broughtst thy head hither again.
My Lord Warden of the Cinque Ports, and my Lord of Rochester, you are joint commissioners. Favor me so much on my expense to bring me to the king.
What, Southampton?
Thither, my good lord. And if he do not clear me of all guilt and all suspicion of conspiracy, pawning his princely warrants for my truth, I ask no favor, but extremest torture. Bring me or send me to him, good my lord. Good my Lord Warden, Master Shreve, entreats.
And here the Lord Warden and Cromer uncover the bishop and secretly whispers with him.
Come hither, lady. Nay, sweet wife, forbear, to heap one sorrow on another's neck. 'Tis grief enough falsely to be accused, and not permitted to acquit myself. Do not thou, with thy kind respective tears, torment thy husband's heart that bleeds for thee, but be of comfort. God hath help in store for those that put assured trust in him. Dear wife, if they commit me to the Tower, come up to London to your sister's house, that being near me, you may comfort me. One solace find I settled in my soul, that I am free from treason's very thought. Only my conscience, for the gospel's sake, is cause of all the troubles I sustain.
Oh, my joy lord, what shall we betide of us? You to the Tower, and I turned out of doors? Our substance seized unto his highness' use, even to the garments longing to our backs.
Patience, good madam. Things at worst will mend, and if they do not, yet our lives may end.
Urge it no more, for if an angel spake, I swear by sweet St. Peter's blessed keys, first goes he to the Tower, and then to the stake.
By your leave, this warrant doth not stretch to imprison her.
No, turn her out of doors.
Lord Warden and Oldcastle whisper.
Even as she is, and lead him to the Tower, with guard enough for fear of rescuing.
Oh, God requite thee, thou bloodthirsty man.
May it not be, my Lord of Rochester. Wherein have I incurred your hate so far that my appeal unto the king's denied?
No hate of mine, but power of Holy Church forbids all favor to false heresies.
Your private malice more than public power strikes most at me, but with my life it ends.
Oh, that I had the bishop in that fear, that once I had his summer by ourselves.
My lord, yet grant one suit unto us all, that this same ancient serving man may wait upon my lord his master in the Tower.
This old iniquity, this heretic, that in contempt of our church discipline compelled my Sumner to devour his process. old ruffian past grace, upstart schematic. Had not the king prayed us to pardon ye had fried Fred, ye grizzled heretic.
Blood, my lord bishop, you do me wrong. I am neither heretic nor Puritan, but of the old church. I'll swear, drink ale, kiss a wench, go to mass, eat fish all Lent, and fast Fridays with cakes and wine, fruit and spicery, shrive me of my old sins afore Easter, and begin new afore Whitsuntide.
A merry, mad, conceited knave, my lord.
The knave was simply put upon the bishop.
Well, God forgive him, and I pardon him. Let him attend his master in the tower, for I in charity wish his soul no hurt.
I bless my soul from such cold charity.
To the tower with him, and when my leisure serves, I will examine him of articles. Look, my lord warden, as you have in charge, the shrive perform his office.
Yes, my lord.
Enter the Sumner with books.
What bringst thou here? What, books of heresy?
Yes, my lord, here's not a Latin book, no, not so much as Our Lady's Psalter. Here's the Bible, the Testament, the Psalms and meter, the sick man's salve, the treasure of gladness, and all in English. Not so much, but the almanac's English.
Away with them, to the fire with them. Clun, now fire upon these upstart heretics, all English, burn them quickly, clun, clun, clun.
But do not, Sumner, as you'll answer for it, for I have their English books, my lord, that I'll not part with for your bishopric. Bevis of Hampton, Owlglass, the Friar and the Boy, Eleanor Rumming, Robin Hood, and other such godly stories, which if ye burn by this flesh, I'll make you drink their ashes in St. Margaret's ale.
And they exit to do some burning. So this is you can tell the religious divide here. You know, we've got all these books, religious books. They're in English. It's not in Latin. You know, showing that Cobham has all these this newfangled material. Harpoole mentioning more popular works, and Harpoole really is playing into some fun times there. I mean, it's a scene which is really quite dark, actually. There's the bishop is really just will not let go. You know, and you know, within the workings of the character, it's I'm sure perfectly reasonable behaviour in his mind. But yeah, it's starting to get a bit darker here. But with these, I say, Harpoole there to sort of break it up a bit.
Yeah.
So it's doing interesting work. Helen.
Yeah, I've suddenly realised that the thing I was about to say is totally wrong. I've got my times mixed up. I was thinking Bishop of Rochester, it's Fisher. We've seen him in Thomas More. But of course it isn't Fisher. It's generations before Fisher.
Yes.
But there's something about these Rochester bishops. Who is Clun? Or why is Clun?
Yeah,
it's a general exclamation, I think.
But it is an odd one, and I don't know where that's coming from. Anyone?
Hello.
Dan's come up with an interesting one.
Yeah, I just dropped it into the chat there.
Yes.
Used to designate a breed of sheep originating in the Clun area, and its etymology, as the Oxford English Dictionary says, it's the name of a town, river, and forest in Shropshire.
Which doesn't wholly help with the context.
I think it's a general exclamation. Along the way, we get splud and spones.
Early modern form of tusk.
Right.
Or what might be replaced with 4 asterisks.
Yeah, it sounded to me like an expletive.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that normally the expletive would be related to God in some way, that God's blood. Whereas splud, all of those vud. I mean, Clun might also, I just can't, it's just not obvious to me.
I'm just wondering whether there is actually a point there that because these are being portrayed as non-Catholic in the sense of adherence to the party line, that there is an attitude to exclamations which would not call upon the name of God.
No, but it's coming from the bishop, so he is Catholic, and therefore, it's good. There might be a tangential connection with that Dan's designation there that we're just not aware of, or there is a possibility that it's been transposed incorrectly in the text that we have. It's been mostly accurate as far as I can tell, but it could be that it's been slightly adjusted, and that it's wrong in some way. I think we should move away from Clun for the moment. But other thoughts about the scene? Rachel's disappointed. You wanted to touch on the Clun issue. Go, Rachael.
No, I mean, if it refers to sheep and he's a Catholic bishop, maybe it refers to, like Jesus and a shepherd and his flock and that type of thing. And he's calling on the people themselves to burn the books. Come on, you religious sheep, burn these books or something like that. But I was just going to say about how he won't even, the bishop won't even contact the king. He's overstepping his jurisdiction. I'm sure that fits into some sort of thought process at the time that the Catholic Church was, not respecting the monarchy or something, or thought that they were above the monarchy.
Oh yes, well this is one of those ongoing things between who has jurisdiction over what crimes, and between ecclesiastical courts and of course who has more sway over the policy of a kingdom, the king or the church. So yeah, that's a really good point. He does not want him to go. He knows the king is in favour of him, so if you can keep him to himself and say, well, this is our issue, and hopefully get the job done before the king finds out, that may or may not have there's an interesting sort of speed to it all that's interesting. Lynn.
Yeah, I was thinking that this scene is indeed, like Robert was saying, dark. There does seem to be a genuine sense of danger going on here with the profane Harpoole kind of undermining that a little bit, and I also think it's quite striking and a little disturbing that the bishop keeps insisting it's not personal, it's the church, and you're like, no, it's personal. So his insistence that this is I have nothing against you personally, that just makes him just kind of more of a bastard.
Yeah, I keep expecting this to sort of fade into he says it's not personal, and we go into a flashback and they're children, and one of them steals another's toy, and it all goes back to that moment. It so clearly feels very personal, doesn't it? It's not just doctrinal. Helen.
Yes, I think as the scene develops, you've got the Shreve Cromer and the Lord Warden, whose name I forget, on one side, and the bishop on the other. So the Lord Warden and the bishop are joined in commission, and the Shreve is doing their arresting for them. He's sort of acting as the bailiff of the commission. But they may have started with it as a job of work, but I think they're both repelled by the bishop's harshness, especially towards Lady Cobham, who they've probably been to dinner with on numerous occasions. But also, Harpoole, is it? Yeah, he doesn't make matters work better.
No.
I mean, every time he opens his mouth, he digs deeper for old Cobham.
Yeah, absolutely, because he's saying all the wrong things, and because he's sort of mocking them, and his choice of text later on, Eleanor Rumming, etc. These are not examples that you want to be throwing in at this stage of proceedings at all. And I don't know if it. Sorry, Helen.
And he goes back to the Sumner again.
Mm.
It was yesterday, we've forgotten it, or was it the day before? Mm. But it was this bishop's summoner.
Mm. So it's
who was
personal.
made to eat his warrant.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because we've just been doing some mystery plays, but I'm wondering if there are deliberate parallels with Cobham's fate here and the sort of judicial proceedings of a reigning Christ. That undue haste, people in official positions, not so keen on the way it's going. You don't want to take it to the king. I'm just wondering if that's deliberate or not, or just because of the coincidence of what we've done this week. That may or may not have any substance to it. We need to move on, so hold on to thoughts. Rachael, we may come back to, we're going to meet the prisoner again literally now. So it's an interesting question whether, I do know that at least one of these scenes might be in the wrong order. So it's possible that this scene's in the wrong place. Because we immediately have Act 4, Scene 4, enter the Bishop of Rochester with his men in livery coats. So the bishop's just exited, and now he almost immediately enters again. So enter Bishop of Rochester and some servants.
Is it your honour's pleasure we shall stay, or come back in the afternoon to fetch you?
Now that you have brought me here into the tower, you may go back unto the porter's lodge and send for drink, or such things as you want, where if I have occasion to employ you, I'll send some officer to call you to me. Into the city go not, I command you. Perhaps I may have present need to use you.
We will attend your worship here, without.
Do so, I pray you.
Come, we may have a quart of wine at the Rose at Barking, I warrant you, and come back an hour before he be ready to go.
We must hire then.
That's a way.
And they exit, leaving the bishop and lieutenant.
Ho, Master Lieutenant.
Who calls there?
A friend of yours.
My Lord of Rochester. Your honour's welcome.
Sir, here's my warrant for the council, for a conference with Sir John Oldcastle upon some matter of great consequence.
Oh, Sir John.
Who calls there?
Harpoole, tell Sir John that my Lord of Rochester comes from the council to confer with him.
I will, sir.
I think you may escape without suspicion, as any man in England, as I hear, for it was you most laboured his commitment.
I did, sir, and nothing repented, I assure you.
And enter Sir John Oldcastle and Harpoole.
Master Lieutenant, I pray you give us leave. I must confer here with Sir John a little.
With all my heart, my lord.
My lord, be ruled by me. Take this occasion while 'tis offered, and on my life your lordship shall escape.
No more, I say. Peace, lest he should suspect it.
Sir John, I am come to you from the lords of his highness most honourable council to know if yet you do recant your errors, conforming you unto the holy church.
My Lord of Rochester, on good advice, I see my error, but yet, understand me, I mean not error in the faith I hold, but error in submitting to your pleasure. Therefore, your lordship, without more to do, must be a means to help me to escape.
What means thou, heretic? Darest thou but lift thy hand against my calling?
No, not to hurt you, for £1,000.
Nothing but to borrow your upper garments a little? Not a word more, for if you do, you die. Peace for waking the children. There, put them on. Dispatch, my lord. The window that goes into the leads is sure enough. I told you that before. There, make you ready. I'll convey him after, and bind him surely in the inner room.
And carries the bishop into the tower and returns.
This is well begun. God send us happy speed. Hard shift you see me make men make in time of need. Harpoole.
And puts on the bishop's cloak.
Here, my lord, come away.
And enter serving men again.
I marvel that my lord should stay so long.
He hath sent to seek us, I dare lay my life.
We have come in good time. See where he is coming. I beseech you, good my lord of Rochester, be favourable to my lord and master.
The inner rooms must be very hot and close. I do not like this air here in the tower.
His case is hard, my lord. You shall safely get out of the tower. You shall safely get out of the tower, but I will down upon them, in which time you get away.
Fellow, thou troublest me.
Hear me, my lord. Hard under Islington, wait you my coming. I will bring my lady, ready with horses, to convey you hence.
Fellow, go back again unto thy lord and counsel him.
Nay, my good lord of Rochester, I'll bring you to St. Albans through the woods. I
Villain!
warrant you.
Villain, away.
Nay, since I am past the tower's liberty, thou partst not so.
And he draws.
Clubs, clubs, clubs.
Murder, murder, murder.
Down with him!
And they fight.
A villain, traitor! You cowardly rogues!
And Sir John escapes. Enter the lieutenant and his men.
Who is so bold as dare to draw a sword so near unto the entrance of the tower?
This ruffian, servant to Sir John Oldcastle, was like to have slain my lord.
Lay hold on him.
Stand off if you love your puddings.
And Rochester calls within.
Help! Help! Master Lieutenant, help!
Who's that within? Some treason in the tower, upon my life. Look in. Who's that which calls?
And enter Rochester bound.
Without your cloak, my lord of Rochester.
There, now it works. Then let me speed, for now is the fittest time for me to escape away.
And exit Harpoole.
Why do you look so ghastly and affrighted?
Oldcastle, that traitor and his man, when you had left me to confer with him, took, bound, and stripped me, as you see, and left me lying in his inner chamber, and so departed, and I...
And you? Ne'er say that the Lord Cobham's man did here set upon you like to murder you.
And so he did.
It was upon his master that he did, that in the brawl the traitor might escape.
Where is this Harpoole?
Oh, here he was, even now.
Where? Can you tell?
They're both escaped.
Since it so happens that he is escaped, I'm glad you are a witness of the same. It might have else been laid unto my charge that I had been consenting to the fact.
Come, search shall be made for him with expedition. The havens laid that he shall not escape. And hue and cry continue through England to find this damned, dangerous heretic.
And exit. So within a moment, with one leap, he was with one bound, he was free. So we've gone from one scene instantly to another, and that's where there is a sense that maybe there's some dislocation as to scenes. I'm now looking at the next scene, thinking maybe that could be slotted in between, so that we have some gap between him being captured and him escaping in a disguising fashion. We always like a bit of disguising. Do we suspect that Munday might have had an instigating instance on this particular part of the script? Possibly. Yeah, that was. I didn't read the stage direction with quite the right emphasis, did I? You know, carries the bishop into the tower and returns. Yeah, they've waylaid him, stolen his clothes to escape withal. Traditional cry of clubs for let's all have a fight. Alan.
I love the fact that the lieutenant's immediate reaction is, thank God it happened then, because I'm not going to get the blame for it.
Yeah, I've got a note of he's covering his arse there very carefully, isn't he? It's just making
just
it clear.
A bit.
Yeah, it's nothing. I wasn't here. I have
Wasn't me, Gov.
Nothing to do with me.
3 other fellas in a Yorkshire Terrier.
So yeah, the last scene where which ended with, you know, burn the books, etc. To this it's quite a shift. I say I do wonder if I'm looking at the next scene, wondering if there's a repositioning possible to break up the flow. I have got a note somewhere that one of the scenes might be in the wrong order, or was in the original manuscript, but or the original printing, but I must check on that fact. Rachael, then Eric, then Helen.
No, I was gonna say it's kind of like yesterday with Wrotham, where it's that one scene with Dahl starts off very dark, and then it just descends into comedy, and I feel like maybe this is what we had with the last scene and then this scene, because I mean, it's just it's like, what do you call it? It's more disguise. I feel like we have more disguise again. Like, if Munday didn't write this part, he was definitely in the room saying, just, put on a disguise, have him come in disguise.
Yeah. The audience love this bit. Go on, just put in another disguise. Yeah, it's great. It always gets a laugh. Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's sort of like, so far we've had 3 disguises, 2 of which have been like sort of high, what do you call it? Well, nobles, basically. One of them has been the king, and the other one has been the bishop. Not the bishop, sorry. So John Oldcastle, which is quite, yeah, I don't know. I can't help but wonder if they're just making fun of, like, obviously they're making fun of the church, but like, sort of, yeah, I don't know. That's why I asked in the chat, like, who was involved in the church, in high status church things at this point in time historically, because that would have been quite interesting to think.
Helen.
Yeah, sorry, I was just reading what the various Q texts made of the balance of the scenes. And I was going to say something absolutely riveting, and I haven't the slightest idea what it is.
The world has lost a wonderful moment.
Oh, yeah.
Any other thoughts in the room?
Insightful,
Yeah.
it was.
Any other thoughts in the room? Rachael?
No, just, I know I said before the rivaling of the church and the monarchy. And maybe it's because the show must go on did Edward II, and we were talking about it the other day, but how much like a rival king the bishop is acting, like putting people in the tower, and I feel like it's very much like or like a Wounds of Civil War type thing going on, where you could play it like a rival king, especially because it's the bishop. I mean, there's different factions, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Helen.
Yeah, I don't think, in fact, there's too much of a conflict here unless the participants choose to make it so, because the church had the duty to prosecute heretics, and it was but the church couldn't execute them. That had to be done by the state. But the imprisoning, not necessarily in the tower, they had their own prisons, but the imprisoning and the questioning and the trying of heresy was the church's job. So, and the bishop has a commission. He doesn't say from whom, but he's got a good commission for it.
Alan.
We saw the commission being issued in the previous scene, look towards the end of yesterday's session. Just before Cobham actually revealed the Cambridge Grey Scroop plot, and I think, although I don't think it was actually stage directed as such, that the bishop was out of the room before that revelation happened. So the king didn't have a chance to rescind it.
So if it's a royal commission, then it's perfectly reasonable to use the tower as prison. Yeah. Good.
Okay, we need to move on, crack into Act 5 as we have it here. We're returning to some reprobates we met earlier who similarly wanted to co-opt the good graces of Lord Cobham. Enter Cambridge Scroop and Grey as in a chamber, and sit down at a table consulting about their treason. Do some consulting acting there, please. King Harry and Suffolk listening at the door.
In mine opinion, Scroop hath well advised. Poison will be the only aptest mean, and fittest for our purpose to dispatch him.
but yet there may be doubt in their delivery. Harry is wise. Therefore, Earl of Cambridge, I judge that way not so convenient.
What think ye then of this? I'm a dead fellow, an unsuspected nightly sleep with him. What if I venture in those silent hours, when sleep hath sealed up all mortal eyes, to murder him in bed? How like ye that?
Herein consists no safety for yourself, and you disclosed. What shall become of us? But this day, as ye know, he will abound aboard the wind so fair, and set away for France. If, as he goes, or entering in the ship, it might be done, then were excellent.
Why, any of these, or if you will, I'll cause a present sitting of the council, wherein I will pretend some matter of such weight as needs must have his royal company, and so dispatch him in the council chamber.
Tush, yet I hear not anything to purpose. I wonder that Lord Cobham stays so long. His counsel in this case would much avail us.
And they rise from the table, and the king steps into them with his lords.
What, shall we rise thus and determine nothing?
That were a shame indeed. No, sit again, and you shall have my counsel in this case. If you can find no way to kill this king, then you shall see how I can further ye. Scroop's way of poison was indifferent, but yet being bedfellow unto the king and unsuspected sleeping in his bosom, in mine opinion, that's the likelier way, for such false friends are able to do much. The silent night is treason's fittest friend. Now, Cambridge, in his setting forth for France, or by the way, or as he goes abroad to do the deed, that was indifferent too, yet somewhat doubtful might I speak my mind. For many reasons, needless now to urge. Marry, Lord Grey came something near the point to have the king at council and there murder him, as Caesar was, amongst his dearest friends. None like to that if all were of his mind. Tell me, oh, tell me, you bright honour's stains, for which of all my kindnesses to you are ye become thus traitors to your king, and France must have the spoil of Harry's life?
Oh, pardon us, dread lord.
And they all kneel.
How? Pardon ye? That were a sin indeed. Drag them to death, which justly they deserve, and France shall dearly buy this villainy as soon as we set footing on her breast.
And they lead them away.
God have praise for our deliverance, and next our thanks, Lord Cobham, is to thee, the perfect mirror of nobility.
And exit. So, yeah, that's how you make it really clear that people are going to die. You know, we were discussing earlier about we weren't quite sure what happened to certain rebels. You know, drag them to death. Absolutely no ambiguity as to what's happening with these three traitors here in this tidying up, really, of stuff that we were dealing with last session. You know, it's a little loose end. But yeah, it does a job. It does a job. Any thoughts on the room? Lynn, then
that.
Eric.
Yeah, just really quick, as you were saying, Rob, you could definitely move this up, poke it in between the two scenes in which Rochester, the bishop, appears to not violate the law of re-entry. That would be, yeah. The editor in me says, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like the flow, and it also highlights the irony of Lord Cobham, perfect mirror of nobility as well, if he's still in prison at that point by the bishop. So and showing that the king doesn't know what's going on about that particular thing. So yeah, I like that. Eric, and did I see Elizabeth waving as well? Yes, so I'll go to Elizabeth after Eric.
I was gonna say that it's just sort of very what's it called? Very clear that the king is sort of obviously favoring sort of this play seems to be about like well, obviously it's about Lord Cobham, so aka John Oldcastle, aka the perfect mirror of nobility. Who is, well, I mean, considering the context of when this was performed or written or whatever, surely this would mean that they're basically playing to the queen. Sort of going, yes, of course, the queen must remain in power. Like, be, a bootlicker. Of course, we haven't finished the play, so I can't, say anything yet, but yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was really astounded by the king in this scene because I didn't see him come in. I felt like on stage he was sidling over to the table or leaning behind it or looking at something else, like something on the mantelpiece, while the traitors were in their treacherous conclave. I found the arrival of the king in the conversation very, very dramatic. But very humorous as well, because I thought it was interesting that the king himself would catch the traitors and send them on to punishment, that he wouldn't get some of his lackeys to do that for him. And I just like the dynamic of the king catching the traitors himself.
Yeah, and there is something nice. The way the king sort of just goes, "No, sit down. Finish what you were doing. Don't mind me. I'm not here." Helen, then Lynn.
Yeah, speaking as the one who read that speech, it was the most satisfying speech to read. I mean, he weighed up the various advantages of the schemes they'd put forward. I mean, there they are knowing that they're dead. And he is just rubbing it in the most beautiful way possible. It's a truly great speech.
It's
Lynn.
Yeah. Basically, I was going to say something very similar to what Helen just said. Like, isn't that just dramatically so great that he's now this is it's okay but not great, and this has the advantage of like giving them a little analysis of their plans. He's like the teacher grading their work, so your project and they're just sitting there like gobsmacked. I'm like caught absolutely red-handed. I mean, he just toys with them. Well, I just think that would be such a fun scene on stage. Such a fun scene to play.
And and it's like the king's going, well, I'm assessing you based on, well, there's quite a few other people who've tried this year, so there's competition's really fierce. Anyway, we will move on to Act 5, Scene 2, as we reacquaint ourselves with Sir John the Priest and Doll. So enter Wrotham and Doll.
Come, Doll, come, be merry, wench. Farewell, Kent, we are not for thee. Be lusty, my lass. Come for Lancashire. We must nip the booing for these crowns.
Why, is all the gold spent already that you had the other day?
Gone, Doll, gone. Flown, spent, vanished. The devil, the drink, and the dice has devoured all.
You might have left me in Kent that you might till you had been better provided. I could have stayed at Cobham.
No, Doll, no. I'll none of that. Kent's too hot, Doll. Kent's too hot. The weathercock of Wrotham will crow no longer. We have plucked him. He has lost his feathers. I have pruned him bare, left him thrice his molted wench.
Faith, Sir John, I might have gone to service again. Old Master Harpoole told me he'd provide me a mistress.
Peace, Doll, peace. Come, mad wench, I'll make thee an honest woman. Wheel into Lancashire to our friends. The truth is, I'll marry thee. We'll want but a little money to buy us a horse, and to spend by the way. The next sheep that comes shall lose his fleece. We'll have these crowns, wench, I warrant thee.
And enter the Irishman with his master slain.
Stay. Who comes here? Some Irish villain, methinks, that has slain a man, and draws him out of the way to rifle him. Stand close, door. We'll see the end.
The Irishman falls to rifle his master.
Alas, poor maester, Sir Richard Lee, be Saint Patrick is rob and cut thy trote for de shane and thy money, and de gold ring be me truly, is love thee well, but now do be kill thee be shitten na canave.
And Sarah, what art thou?
Be Saint Patrick Meister is poor Irishman is a lufter.
Sarah, you are a damned rogue. You have killed a man here and rifled him of all that he has. Sblood, you rogue, deliver, or I'll not leave you so much as an Irish hair above your shoulders, you horse and Irish dog. Sirrah, untrust presently. Come off and dispatch, or by this cross I'll fetch your head off as clean as a bark.
Please me, Saint Patrick. Is kill me, meister, for chain and his ring, and nows be rob of all. Me's undo.
And the priest robs him.
Avaunt, you rascal. Go, Sirrah. Be walking. Come down, the devil laughs when one thief robs another. Come, mad wench, go to St. Albans and revel in our bower. Hey, my brave girl. Hey.
Oh, thou art old, Sir John, when all's done in faith.
And they exit. Okay, I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm going to say we've located a scene written by Robert Wilson.
Yeah.
I've just sudden random xenophobia. There is no reason at all for this to be an Irish guy. You know, it's just going, oh, look, he must be Irish. He's killed somebody randomly and he's going to rob him. I mean, whoa, what? Where's this coming? It's one thing for him to rob someone who's robbing someone else, but the whole thing, and then it's written, it wasn't a fun task for Rachael to try and read the dialect form that was written in there, but I'm gonna say Robert Wilson because he's got form in this. But of course, other xenophobes are available. You know, it's just unnecessary for the nature of the scene. Actually, you could have a thief robbing a thief. That's all you need to do. You don't need to do that extra work at all. Just why? Okay. Elizabeth, then Helen, then Eric.
I was instantly reminded of Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars. You know, that kind of portrayal of a dialect that's so offensive that people are just shocked at the offensive way of nature of the text. I also thought that yesterday we had the devil laughs when one thief robs another. Is that a phrase that's been repeated throughout the play? Or is that the first time we've heard that?
I don't know, but it's a good shout. It feels like that might be a thing. We can certainly check that. Anyone who's can quickly do a search on that. I'm sure we can find that.
Is anyone?
Helen. Well, even so, it's still a good thing theme to bring up. I mean, it is the theme of the scene.
And it seems a very likely proverb. I was struck by two uses of the word old. Dole says, both of them, I might have gone with old Master Harpoole. Now, I haven't really thought of Harpoole as being particularly old before, because he's certainly very active in rescuing people from the tower and binding bishops and things. But You know, I mean, he could. I mean, doesn't seem to be a young man, but nevertheless. And then she points out right at the end, "Oh, thou art old, Sir John." You know,
we did. I think Alan might be about to speak on this. Didn't we have an indication of Harpoole's hair colour earlier?
We did, and in fact, if you think back to when he first appeared, which was before the introduction of Cobham on stage, he was talking about what things were like in Cobham's mother's day. So I get the impression that he's the faithful old family retainer who's been inherited by Cobham. You know, he's been in place forever and a day. He still thinks he's a bit of a lad, as we saw with his flirting with Doll earlier on. You know, and I suspect it's a question of the language is still there, but whether any capacity remains is another matter.
Yeah, you get the impression that, yeah, in that sense, that's why he's so annoying. So you just can't get rid of him because he's part of the furniture.
Yeah. He knows
I like
where
that.
the bodies have been buried as well.
Yeah, and I think Dan's found the reference that Elizabeth was bringing up. So yes, we can confirm that the king said it earlier. So, Eric.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about that old now. I was gonna say something else, but yeah, because I looked it up, and obviously one of the things that came up was the colloquial use of, we're gonna have a high old time. So maybe one of the uses is the actual, like old in terms of age, and then the other one is actually a different meaning. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Doll doesn't really trust him, but is sort of like tagging along. I don't know, or just sort of playfully pretending not to trust him. I don't know. She's an interesting character because it's like, yeah, I don't really want to come with you, but I'll come with you. I'll do this for you, for me, whatever.
Yeah, the one bit of the scene I do like is the that bit about, can't we stay in Kent? And he's just, no, Kent's too hot. It's too hot for us to stay in Kent. And I'm going, that sounds suddenly so modern. We've done too much in this town. We've got to move on. Anyway, we do need to move on. So we're going to dive into Act 5, Scene 3, leaving hopefully this scene as a memory that we can wipe away. Act 5, Scene 3, enter the host of the bell. Oh no, oh dear. With the Irishman.
Be me trow, measter, is poor Irishman, is want lodging, is have no money, is starve and cold. Good measter, give her some meat, is famis and tie.
If faith, my fellow, I have no lodging, but what I keep for my guests, that I may not disappoint. As for meat, thou shalt have such as there is, and if thou wilt lie in the barn, there's fair straw and room enough.
Is thank my measter heartily, the straw is good bed for me.
Ho, Robin!
Who calls?
Shoo this poor Irishman into the barn. Go, Sirrah.
And they exit. Enter Carrier and Kate.
Oh, who's within here? Who looks to the horses? God's hat, here's fine work. The hen's in the manger and the hog's in the litter. A bot's found you all. Here's a house well looked to, i' faith.
Mass Golf Club, ice very cold.
Oh, get in, Kate, get in to fire and warm thee. Ho, John Hostler!
What, Gaffer Club? What, St Albans? How does all our friends in Lancashire?
Well, God a mercy, John. How does Tom? Where's he?
Oh, Tom's gone, friends. He's at the Three Horslows at Stratford Stony. How's old Dick done?
God's act. Old Dun has been mired in a slough in Brickhill Lane. A plague found it. Yonder is such abomination weather as never was seen.
God's that thief. And 1/2 peck of peas and oats more for that. So I'm John Hostler. He has ever been as good a jade as ever travelled.
Faith, well said, old Jack. Thou art the old lad still.
Come, Gaffer, club, unload, and get to supper, and I'll rub done the while. Come on.
And they exit, going straight into Act 5, Scene 4. Enter the host with Sir John Oldcastle and Harpoole.
Sir, you are welcome to this house, to such as here is with all my heart. But, by the mass, I fear your lodging will be the worst. I have but 2 beds, and they are both in a chamber, and the carrier and his daughter lies in the one, and you and your wife must lie in the other.
In faith, sir, for myself, I do not greatly pass. My wife is weary and would be at rest, for we have travelled very far today. We must be content with such as you have.
But I cannot tell you how to do with your man.
What? As though never an empty room in the house for me?
Not a bed, by my troth. There came a poor Irishman, and I lodged him in the barn, where he has fair straw, though he have nothing else.
Well, mine host, I pray thee help me to a pair of sheets, and I'll go lodge with him.
By the mass, that thou shalt, a good pair of hempen sheets were never lain in. Come.
And they exit. Just going to pause there briefly. So you get the impression there's a setup for something occurring here. We've got Harpoole going into the barn with the Irishman. So yeah, this could all go well. This could all definitely go well. Yeah. Any brief thoughts? We're pausing a little too often, but Rachael.
No, the other day I asked about that scene with the Welsh people who were in court, because I didn't know if there was something there that I didn't understand because of, I just lacked the cultural context. But this scene with the Irishman is like so much more than that. And it's not like a play on the game of people have to go far back into their name to distinguish themselves from their neighbor's name. But just that, this Irishman, he came first, and he's not like, the guy won't let him sleep in the inn, and he sends him over to the barn, but the next guy who comes, he lets him in.
Well, the next guy has money. The Irishman doesn't.
Oh, okay.
So he's basically going, I'm poor, I'm hungry. So they say, oh well, you can sleep in the barn. So that's it. But what's interesting about the scene, the scenes that unfold, is just sort of you get a sudden pen portrait of these people, of the carrier and Kate and the host and actually the Irishman in this moment isn't problematic so far. Within the context of this scene, he's just he's given a roof over his head if nothing else. So it's a really interesting sketched out world that we actually get here that Cobham now wanders into, and of course Cobham's on the run. Remember. In theory, at least from some people, he's not necessarily on the run from the king, but he's just escaped in a dramatic fashion. So he may not be going. He may be wanting to lie low himself, and of course, poor Harpoole, he's going to end up sleeping in the barn as well. Oh well. I don't want to linger here too long unless anyone has any thoughts. We got a few more relatively short scenes I want to rattle through, see how they flow. Question of whether the ordering on the next 2 scenes is right. In my mind, we shall see in a moment. Act 5, Scene 5, enter the Constable and Mayor and Watch.
Well, have you searched the town?
All the town, sir. We have not left a house unsearched that uses to lodge.
Surely my lord of Rochester was then deceived or ill-informed of Sir John Oldcastle. Or if he came this way, he's past the town. He could not else have escaped you in the search.
Well, the privy watch have been abroad all night, and not a stranger lodgeth in the town, but he is known. Only a lusty priest we found in bed with a pretty wench that says she is his wife, yonder at the shears, but we've charged the host with this forthcoming tomorrow morning.
What think you best to do?
Oh, faith, Master Mayor, here's a few straggling houses beyond the bridge and a little inn where carriers used to lodge, though I think sure he would ne'er lodge there. But we'll go search, and the rather, because there came notice in the town there came notice to the town the last night of an Irishman that had done a murder, whom we are to make search for.
Come, I pray you, and be circumspect.
And they exit. Act 5, Scene 6. Enter the watch.
First beset the house before you begin the search.
Content, every man take a several place.
Here is heard a great noise within. Keep, strike him down there, keep down with him. Enter Constable with the Irishman in Harpoole's apparel. Come, you villainous heretic, confess where your master is. The Irishman in Harpoole's attire. Act 5, Scene 6.
Vat Meister.
Vad Maester, you counterfeit rebel. This shall not serve your turn.
Be St. Patrick, I ha no Meister.
Where's the Lord Cobham, Sir John Oldcastle, that lately has escaped out of the tower?
Vat Lord Cobham.
You counterfeit, this shall not serve you. We'll torture you. We'll make you to confess where that arch-heretic Lord Cobham is. Come, bind him fast.
Ahone, a cree.
Oh, you crafty rascal. And they exit. Act 5, Scene 7. Lord Cobham comes out in his gown, stealing.
Harpoole! Harpoole! I hear a marvellous noise about the house. God warrant us, I fear we are pursued. What, Harpoole?
Who calls there?
'Tis I. Dost not now hear a noise about the house?
Yes, marry I do. Swoons, I cannot find my hose. This Irish rascal that was lodged with me all night hath stolen my apparel and has left me nothing but a lousy mantle and a pair of brogues. Get up, and if the carrier and his wench be asleep, change you with them as he hath done with me, and see if we can escape.
And exit Lord Cobham. A noise again heard about the house a pretty while. Then enter the constable, meeting Harpoole in the Irishman's apparel. Stand close, here comes the Irishman that did the murder. By all the tokens, this is he.
And perceiving the house beset, would get away. Stand, sirrah.
What art thou that bidst me stand?
I am the officer that am come to search for an Irishman, such a villain as thyself, that has murdered a man this last night by the highway.
Blood constable, I am mad. Am I an Irishman?
Sir, we'll find you an Irishman before we part. Lay hold upon him.
Make him fast. Oh, thou bloody rogue. Here enter Lord Cobham and his lady in a carrier and wench's apparel.
Oh, will these horses sleep all day? Good morrow. Come, wench, come. Sail now afore God to 4 days, eh?
Who comes there?
Oh, this Lancashire carrier. Let him pass.
Will nobody open the gates here? Come, let's in stable today, go to our capons.
And exeunt Cobham and his lady. The carrier calling out now.
Host? Why, Hostler! Suits, here's such abomination company of boys. Pox of this pigsty in the house end. It fills all the house full of fleas. Hostler!
Enter the ostler.
Who calls there? What would you have?
Zooks, do you rob your guests? Do you lodge rogues and slaves and scoundrels, huh? They've stolen our clothes. Why, Hostler?
Moraine choke you. What bawling you keep?
And enter the host.
How now? What would the carrier have? Look up there.
They say that a man and the woman that lay by them have stolen their clothes.
What? Are the strange folks up yet that come in yesternight?
What, mine host up so early?
What? Master Mayor and Master Constable?
We're come to seek for some suspected persons, and as such as here we found have apprehended.
Enter the carrier and Kate in Lord Cobham and lady's apparel. Oh, who comes here?
Who comes here? A plague found 'em, you ball, quoth our odds hat. I'll forswear your house. You lodged a fellow and his wife by that are run away with our peril, and left us such G-jaws here. Come, Kate, come to me, thou dizzard ye faith.
Mine host, know you this man?
Yes, Master Mayor. I'll give my word for him. Why, neighbour Club, how comes this gear about?
Now, a foul on't. I cannot make this gewgaw stand on my head. Now the lads and the lasses one flout me tutu.
How came this man and woman thus attired?
Here came a man and woman hither this last night. Here came a man and woman hither this last night, which I did take for substantial people, and lodged all in one chamber by these folks, methinks, have been so bold to change apparel, and gone away this morning ere they rose.
That was that villain traitor Oldcastle that hath thus escaped us. Make out hue and cry yet after him. Keep fast that traitorous rebel, his servant there. Farewell, mine host.
And whoever's club, read the next
that's
line.
It. Come, Kate Oldham, thou and I's trimly dizzard.
And they exit. So we have this scene of high farce comedy as everybody's changing clothes in another scene of disguising. We've got, unfortunately for Harpoole, he's changed clothes with, or he's been forced to change clothes with someone who's accused of murder, so it doesn't look like he's going to end up in a good place. Meanwhile, Cobham's got away with his wife. They're okay. Yes, hilarity ensues, he said. Apart from that slightly awkwardness about the nature of the Irishman's character and how he's portrayed. But at the moment I'm feeling that it's just straightforwardly you could strip mine that element out of him and that would function. You just have to call him a murderer and just leave it at that and it would all be fine. Still, yeah, odd choice. Thoughts in the room? Helen, then Alan, then Eric.
Yeah, Club has come off very well because he's got some quality clothing which would have value. I mean, there's a big market in second-hand quality clothing, and he and Kate are not happy. They're not happy with the whole idea of it. Kate, because she can't make the headdress stand on her head properly, and she thinks she's going to be mocked by all her friends for wearing it. It's interesting that they're not blessing themselves for having made a tremendous profit.
Well, it's early in the morning. They're probably not in the best of frame of minds. You know, it's all commotion. They want a quiet life.
Yeah.
Alan.
I must admit that scene just reminded me of a Brian Rix farce. You know, you were almost expecting wardrobe doors, weren't you?
Yeah, and it's all very, very quick and fast moving, and you know these quick changes need to be really quick, and it's all been set up. You know, it's like we were going earlier. Why have we got this random person with Wrotham and Doll? And we get this callback actually to Wrotham and Doll of just you know, the priest was found in bed with his. She said he was his wife, which at this time is not possible doctrinally. So you know, it's a bit awkward. So it looks like they're in trouble as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Helen.
Yeah, not only they are in trouble, but the person who was housing them is in trouble. In fact, probably more trouble, because it was always, you could always lose your license by allowing people to fornicate on the premises.
Learn a new thing.
And frequently did.
Eric and then Elizabeth.
I was going to say that this reminded me of like, hey, you know what we need? A chase scene where, I don't know, it's just very sort of weird and fun. Yeah, it's like, hey, it was that guy. No, wait, that was like with the I don't know, just like either idiot cops or idiot sheriff or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's really interesting, this tone thing that we had earlier of we were saying, oh, it's getting a bit dark. We've got all this book burning, and we've got the Grey and Scroop and Cambridge going to their deaths, and then there's been a murder, random plot point of a murder that happened off stage, and then we have this. So it's doing all sorts of interesting, strange things. How that all holds together is this session is it's really interesting. Elizabeth.
I really loved the whole thing about the attire and the apparel and the changing of the clothes into other people's costumes. And I just it really made me think of Stars in Their Eyes. And it's like, tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be the Irishman. And it's just, I thought it was a very, very interesting way of introducing humor, but also intrigue. Because I wonder, like, by this point, I'm not even sure who is disguised as who.
Well, it's also, I'm going to suggest, in terms of casting, make sure whoever the Irishman is and Harpoole are very different sized people. Because I think Harpoole should come on in this tiny, because that's all he could get, whereas the Irishman's got, voluminous cloak or something that, is a bit big on him, and is plausible, whereas poor Harpoole just wanders on and he can barely move because it's so tight. I think that would be quite fun. Eric, then Rachael.
I was going to say, maybe this is like sort of almost like Supposes, like by Gascoigne that we know and love. But a bit less elegant, I think, in terms of keeping track of who is doing what. Also, but it's also smart because it's got this element of I cannot make this Hugo stand on my head, and you get the impression that Kate has not worn fancy clothing before. Therefore, you kind of understand what's going on in terms of status as well.
Rachael, and then we will move on.
No. I was just going to say, it's not disguise, but it's the switching of the clothes and the playing around with identity again. And that there's some danger removed by from this scene, that these two people really could have, been taken in by the constable and the mayor for being in these people's clothes, but it's so obvious that they're not the type of people who have ever worn these clothes, that this danger is removed, that that they're not going to be mistaken for Cobham, and the chase is still on. Or it'll be even a more bizarre comedy if they're fooled by this disguise.
Yeah. Let's find out where it goes as we go to Act 5, Scene 8. Enter Sir John Oldcastle and his lady disguised.
Oh, madam, happily escaped. Here, let us sit. This place is fairer remote from any path, and here a while our weary limbs may rest to take refreshing, free from the pursuit of envious Rochester.
But where, my lord, shall we find rest for our disquiet minds? There dwell untamed thoughts that hardly stop, to such abasement of disdained rags. We were not wont to travel thus by night, especially on foot.
No matter, love. Extremities admit no better choice. And were it not for thee, say, forward time imposed a greater task, I would esteem it as lightly as the wind that blows upon us. But in the sufferance, I am doubly tasked. Thou wast not wont to have the earth thy stool, nor the moist dewy grass thy pillow, nor thy chamber to be the wide horizon.
How could it seem a trouble having you a partner with me in the worst I feel? No, gentle lord, your presence would give ease to death itself, should he now seize upon me.
And here's bread and cheese in a bottle.
Behold what my foresight hath undertaken. For fear we faint. They are but homely cakes, yet sauced with hunger. They may seem as sweet as greater dainties we were wont to taste.
Praise be to him whose plenty sends both this and all things else our mortal bodies need, nor scorn we this poor feeding, nor the state we now are in. For what is it on earth, nay, under heaven, continues at a stay? Ebbs not the sea when it hath overflown? Follows not darkness when the day is gone? And see we not sometime the eye of heaven dimmed with overflying clouds? There's not that work of careful nature or of cunning art, how strong, how beauteous, or how rich it be, but falls in time to ruin. Here, gentle madam, in this one draught I wash my sorrow down.
And he drinks.
And I, encouraged with your cheerful speech, will do the like.
Pray God, poor Harpoole come. If he should fall into the bishop's hands or not remember where we bade him meet us, it were the thing of all things else that now could breed revolt in this new peace of mind.
Fear not, my lord, he's witty to devise and strong to execute a present shift.
That power be still his guide hath guided us. My drowsy eyes wax heavy, early rising. Together with the travel we have had, make me that I could gladly take a nap, where I persuaded we might be secure.
Let that depend on me. Whilst you do sleep, I'll watch that no misfortune happen us. Lay then your head upon my lap, sweet lord, boldly take your rest.
I shall, dear wife, be too much trouble to thee.
Urge not that. My duty binds me, and your love commands. I would I had the skill with tuned voice to draw on sleep with some sweet melody, but imperfection and unaptness too are both repugnant. Fear insert the one, t'other nature hath denied me use. But what talk I of means to purchase that is freely happened? Sleep, with gentle hand, hath thus shut his eyelids. O victorious labour, how soon thy power can charm the body's sense. And now thou likewise climbs unto my brain, making my heavy temples stoop to thee. Great God of heaven, from danger keep us free.
And they both sleep. Enter Sir Richard Lee and his men.
A murder closely done, and in my ground. Search carefully, if anywhere it were. This obscure thicket is the likeliest place.
Sir, I have found the body stiff with cold and mangled cruelly with many wounds.
Look, if thou knowest him, turn his body up. Alack, it is my son and heir, whom 2 years since I sent to Ireland to practice there the discipline of war. And coming home, for so he wrote to me, some savage heart, some bloody devilish hand, either in hate or thirsting for his coin, hath here sluiced out his blood. Unhappy hour, accursed place, but most inconstant fate, that hadst reserved him from the bullet's fire, and suffered him to scape the wood-carn's fury, didst here ordain the treasure of his life, even here within the arms of tender peace, and where security gave greatest hope, to be consumed by treason's wasteful hand, and what is most afflicting to my soul, that this his death and murder should be wrought without the knowledge by whose means 'twas done.
No, not so, sir. I have found the authors of it. See, where they sit, and in their bloody fists the fatal instruments of death and sin.
Just judgment of that power, whose gracious eye, loathing the sight of such a heinous fact, dazzled their senses with benumbing sleep, till their unhallowed treachery were known. Awake, ye monsters, murderers, awake! Tremble for horror, blush you cannot choose, beholding this inhumane deed of yours.
What mean you, sir, to trouble weary souls and interrupt us in our quiet sleep?
Oh, devilish! Can you boast unto yourselves of quiet sleep, having within your hearts the guilt of murder waking, that with cries deaf the loud thunder and solicits heaven with more than mandrake shrieks for your offence?
What murder? You upbraid us wrongfully.
Can you deny the fact? See you not here the body of my son, by you misdone? Look on his wounds, look on his purple hue. Do we not find you where the deed was done? Were not your knives fast closed in your hands? Is not this cloth an argument beside? thus stained and spotted with his innocent blood? These speaking characters were nothing else to plead against you, would convict you both. Bring them away, bereavers of my joy. At Hertford, where the sizes now are kept, their life shall answer for my son's lost life.
As we are innocent, so may we speed.
As I am wronged, so may the Lord proceed.
And they exit. So we're getting all sorts of things that I'm not quite sure about. So we've got this hue and cry for this murder, but nobody knows. Nobody's found the body yet. So how did they know there's been a murder? To be hunting for them earlier. Oh well. Maybe someone had stumbled over the body and they said somewhere around here, and that's what Lee's now looking for. That I can find. Okay, they may be holding knives because they've been cutting up bread and things, but where does the stained and spotted cloth come from?
Spilt wine?
Yeah, it feels like there's something not quite hanging together here that I'm missing. That there's something not quite. I mean, it's nice that we got some backstory now about there's a connection with the Irishman, and it's to do with the Irish sent to Ireland, discipline of war. I'm wondering again if this is more speaking about the 1590s than it is speaking about the early 1400s. So yeah, it's there's some really good stuff in this scene. I'm really liking the Lady Cobham's. You know, I'll stay awake. I'll stay awake. I'll definitely stay awake. I'm sure we'll be fine. So yeah, there's some really interesting things. But yeah, some also slightly confusing things. Lynn, then Eric.
Yeah, I'm kind of two minds on this one. Like you say, like interesting things, fun, touching, amusing moments. But I mean, I find the coincidence that the person searching for the body is the father of the person who was killed, and all the layers of complication that we're laying in at this point. I'm starting to get a little annoyed with this.
Yeah, it does feel like we've gone on a strange tangent here to get us to an ending, rather than the ending perhaps we were thinking we were heading for. It feels like we've gone on. We're meeting all sorts of random people. Helen, then Elizabeth.
Yes, if Lee's son was on his way home, then it's not unlikely that he would be near home. If you see what I mean. I mean, I don't think his position in that, and I don't think his position locally has to be explained. But I mean, I know it is a bit confusing and there are a lot of gaps, but there are so many loose ends that are actually proving to have a plot function.
Yes, I mean, it does.
And I am liking that.
Yeah, and maybe we're stopping and starting a lot during short scenes, and that always takes the momentum out of stuff. I'll go to Elizabeth, then Eric, who I forgot about, and then Alan, and then we need to move on.
Yeah, just briefly, I wanted to say, it was a bit contrived, the way Cobham was, near the body and with the knife and with the spotted handkerchief. And, how much more evidence could there be that they committed the crime? And it's like, my 21st century mind says that they would have been framed because they wouldn't stay at the scene of the crime and go to sleep and to be woken up by the father of the victim. So it was just a little bit contrived, I thought.
Yeah, you almost want the bishop to have snuck on and go ha ha ha, and or something like that to put the additional evidence in place. Yeah, Eric.
I was going to say it's just very much that thing from Arden of Faversham where everyone is suddenly in CSI, because Lee is sort of obviously it's his daughter, his son. Going, yes, so see, you have the knife, and it matches the splatter pattern with the I don't know, with the blood, and your clothing is covered in these things, and it matches the wounds and that kind of thing. It just feels very I don't know.
And Alan, and then we move on.
I think, quite honestly, discussing the holes in the plot and the staging is to a certain extent irrelevant, because I suspect this was played at a hell of a pace, almost at fast pace, and by the time the audience spotted the gap, they were 5 lines further on.
Well, I'd agree if it wasn't for the nature of this scene, because this scene is slow. They're sitting down and having a picnic. It's like the playwright's given us a moment for us to have enough time to think about what's going on, which is fatal in a farce situation, because that's the whole point. So anyway, we need to gather evidence and get to the end, so we're going to run the next 2 scenes to the end of the play before we stop. So Act 5, Scene 9... Good grief. Enter the Bishop of Rochester, Constable of St Albans, with Sir John of Wrotham, Doll his wench, and the Irishman in Harpoole's attire.
What intricate confusion have we here? Not 2 hours since we apprehended one in habit Irish, but in speech not so. And now you bring another that in speech is altogether Irish, but in habit seems to be English. Yea, and more than so, the servant of that heretic, Lord Cobham.
Fate, me be no servant of the Lord Cobham. Me be Mac Cheney of Vister,
otherwise called Harpoole of Kent. Go to, sir, you cannot blind us with your broken Irish.
Trust me, my Lord Bishop. Whether Irish or English, Harpoole or not Harpoole, that I leave to be decided by the trial. But sure, I am this man by face and speech. Is he that murdered young Sir Richard Lee. I met him presently upon the fact, and that he slew his master for that gold. Those jewels and that chain I took from him.
Well, our affairs do call us back to London, so that we cannot prosecute the cause, as we desire to do. Therefore, we leave the charge with you to see they be conveyed to Hertford seas. Both this counterfeit and you, Sir John of Wrotham, and your wench, for you are culpable as well as they, though not for murder, yet for felony. But since you are the means to bring to light this graceless murder, you shall bear with you our letters to the judges of the bench, to be your friends in what they lawful may. So away with them.
And they exit Act 5, Scene 10. This is where we've got a lot of doubling, getting into confusion. Hold on to your hats. Enter Jailer with his man, bringing forth Oldcastle.
Bring forth the prisoners. See the court prepared. The justices are coming to the bench. So let him stand away and fetch the rest.
And exit the jailer.
Oh, give me patience to endure this scourge. Thou that art fountain of that virtuous stream, and though contempt, false witness, and reproach hang on these iron gifts to press my life as low as earth, yet strengthen me with faith that I may mount in spirit above the clouds.
Enter jailer, bringing in Lady Oldcastle and Harpoole.
Here comes my lady. Sorrow 'tis for her, thy wound is grievous, else I scoff at thee. What, and poor Harpoole, art thou in the briars too?
In faith, my lord, I am in. Get out how I can.
Say, gentle lord, for now we are alone, and may confer. Shall we confess in brief of whence and what we are, and so prevent the accusation is commenced against us?
What will that help us? Being known, sweet love, we shall for heresy be put to death, for so they term the religion we profess. No, if it be ordained we must die, and at this instant, this our comfort be, that of the guilt imposed, our souls are free.
Yea, yea, my lord, Harpoole is so resolved. I reek of death the less, that in that I die not by the sentence of that envious priest, the Bishop of Rochester. Oh, were it he, or by his means, that I should suffer here, it would be double torment to my soul.
Well, be it then according as heaven please.
Enter the Lord Judge, 2 justices, Mayor of St Albans, Lord Powis and his lady, and old Sir Richard Lee. The judge and justices take their places. Now, Master Mayor, what gentleman is that you bring with you before us in the bench?
The Lord Powis, if it like your honour, and this his lady, travelling towards Wales, who, for they lodged last night within my house, and my Lord Bishop did lay search for such, were very willing to come on with me, lest for their sakes, a suspicion might wrong.
We cry your honour mercy. Good, my lord. Wilt please you take your place? Madam, your ladyship may here, or where you will, repose yourself until this business now in hand be past.
I will withdraw into some other room, so that your lordship and the rest may be pleased.
With all our hearts. Attend the lady there.
Wife, I have eyed on prisoners all this while, and my conceit doth tell me 'tis our friend, the noble Cobham and his virtuous lady.
Think no less. Are they suspected, trow ye, for doing of this murder?
What his means I cannot tell, but we shall know anon. Mean space, as you pass by them, ask the question, but do it secretly, you be not seen, and make some sign that I may know your mind.
My Lord Cobham, madame.
Oh, Cobham now, nor madam as you love us, but John of Lancashire and Joan his wife.
Oh, tell, what is it that our love can do to pleasure you? For we are bound to you.
Nothing but this, that you conceal our names so gentle lady pass for being spied.
My heart I leave to bear part of your grief.
Call the prisoners to the bar. Sir Richard Lee, what evidence can you bring against these people to prove them guilty of the murder done?
This bloody towel and these naked knives. Beside, we found them sitting by the place where the dead body lay, within a bush.
What answer you why law should not proceed according to the evidence given in to tax you with the penalty of death?
That we are free from murder's very thoughts, and know not how the gentleman was slain.
How came this linen cloth so bloody, then?
My husband hot with travelling, my lord. His nose gushed out a bleeding. That was it.
But wherefore were your sharp-edged knives unsheathed?
To cut such simple victuals as we had.
Say we admit this answer to those articles. What made ye in so private a dark nook, so far remote from any common path, as was the thick where the dead corpse was thrown?
Journeying, my lord, from London from the term down into Lancashire where we do dwell, and what with age and travel being faint, we gladly sought a place where we might rest, free from resort of other passengers. And so we strayed into that secret corner.
These are but ambages to drive of time and linger justice from her purposed end. Oh, but who are these, says the judge, as enter the constable, played by somebody else now, bringing in the Irishman, Sir John of Wrotham, who will be changing hats, and Doll.
Stay judgment, and release those innocents, for here is he whose hand hath done the deed, for which they stand indicted at the bar. This savage villain, this rude Irish slave, his tongue already hath confessed the fact, and here is witness to confirm as much.
Yes, my good lords. No sooner had he slain his loving master for the wealth he had, but I upon the instant met with him, and what he purchased with the loss of blood, with strokes I presently bereaved him of, some of the which is sent, the rest remaining. I willingly surrender to the hands of old Richard Lee as being his. Besides, my lord judge, I greet your honour with letters from my lord of Rochester.
And delivers a letter.
Is this the wolf whose thirsty throat did drink my dear son's blood? Art thou the snake he cherished, yet with envious piercing sting assailed him mortally? Foul stigmatic, thou venom of the country where thou livest, and pestilence of this, were it not that law stands ready to revenge thy cruelty, traitor to God, thy master, and to me, These hands should be thy executioner.
Patience, Richard Lee, you shall have justice, and he the guerdon of his base desert. The fact is odious. Therefore take him hence, and being hanged until the wretch be dead, his body shall after be handed in chains near to the place where he did the act of murder.
Prithee, Lord Judge, let me have mine own clothes. My stross is there, and let me be hanged in a with after my country, the Irish fashion.
And exit the Irishman. Go away with him. And now, Sir John, although by you this murder came to light, and therein you have well deserved, yet upright law, Sir will not have you be excused and quit, for you did rob the Irishman, by which you stand attainted here of felony. Besides, you have been lewd, and many years led a lascivious, unbeseeming life.
Oh, but my lord, he repents. Sir John repents. And he will mend.
In hope thereof, together with the favour my Lord of Rochester entreats for you, we are content you shall be proved.
I thank you, good lordship.
These other falsely here accused and brought in peril wrongfully, we in like sort do set at liberty, paying their fees.
That office, if it please ye, I will do for country's sake, because I know them well. They are my neighbours. Therefore, of my cost, their charges shall be paid.
And for amends, touching the wrong unwittingly I have done, there are a few crowns more for them to drink.
And gives them a purse. Oh, your kindness merits praise, Sir Richard Lee. So let us hence and exit everybody except for Lord Powis and Oldcastle.
But Powis still must stay. There yet remains a part of that true love he owes his noble friend unsatisfied and unperformed, which first of all doth bind me to gratulate your lordship's safe delivery, and then entreat that since unlooked for thus we here are met, your honour would vouchsafe to ride with me to Wales, where to my power, though not to quittance those great benefits I have received of you, yet both my house, my purse, my servants, and what else I have, are at your command. Deny me not. I know the bishop's hate pursues ye so, that there's no safety in abiding here.
'Tis true, my lord, and God forgive him for it.
Then let us hence. You shall be straight provided of lusty geldings, and once entered Wales, well may the bishop hunt, but spite of his face, he never more shall have this game in chase.
And they exit. And yes, with the assistance of his friends, Lord Cobham escapes to Wales, and the play ends. So that's where we reached at that end point. Was this where we thought we were going? Have we enjoyed the ride? What do we make of this? It's all of this. I'm going to go to Dan about just actually where we've ended here, and also to cram in any final thoughts, because I know you need to nip off relatively swiftly. Dan, any thoughts about this closing of the play and the play overall?
The suspension of disbelief worked for me. I do think if it's played at pace, and certainly there's some things missing in the script that we have, as well as missing in the original printing, as far as how they've discovered that Oldcastle is the one who had the bloody cloth and whatnot. Those are things that this is a funny printing of it, because it has stage directions, as Robert actually pointed out, as crossing the stage, I believe one of the characters does, which is a very curious one, because it's not something that normally one would write in a script, and I can't imagine why the printer would include it other than seeing a crossing direction in it there. And yet there are other things that are missing from it that seem to be crucial bits of information. So without studying this anymore, there's a lot of specificity in the script that makes me believe that it was based on possibly something to use to be staged, and yet there's a number of things missing from it. Even with that missing, it holds very well together. Munday doesn't disappoint for me. I really enjoyed this. I hope we do a second look of it.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, all the information is there. It's just they don't deliver the information in all the right order. We find out that the reason the handkerchief is bloody, he had a nosebleed. I think that's a bit of business one could put in to fill in that little gap. They have reasons. I suggested the knife thing anyway earlier, so that all sort of fits together. So yeah. It's not so much that it's missing information, it's just that information is sort of presented in slightly... The play is putting forward information in slightly odd ways that maybe we just need to infer a bit of additional business to fill in and do a little bit of work.
If I may,
yeah.
They wouldn't likely have that type of stuff in the script anyway, like, for example, blowing your nose, a character in there. So some of the things that they do have in there do seem to be ones where one can infer a stage direction from a written stage direction, such as crossing the stage. They would normally have what looks like a hashtag now for crossing the stage. So whether it was written cross the stage seems unlikely, but whoever the scribe was might have written in that direction, and then that was transcribed. I mean, who knows? It just seems curious why it would be written there.
Well, it's because it's sort. I think because the stage direction which I didn't read out. So for the viewers at home, as she passeth over the stage by them, and it's a line of it's a line because it's connect. It's not just that she's passing; she's speaking as she's passing. So I think maybe because of the relative complexity of that combination of factors, it's not just passing across the stage. It's you're passing by and whispering information to you as you go. It's a bit more detailed, and so maybe there's that.
There's also marking of asides in there too, which is not really common that you see in them. There's usually a reason for it. I haven't done enough studying into this, but it's a funny specific direction to have in a script about passing point, even with what you're saying. Yeah.
But now that we've got the totality of this closing business, shall we say? I mean, effectively, this session, apart from clearing up some stuff from last time, has been mostly this escape plot, and thing, and that's a unit of action that if we work in properly, I think I'm going to just say at this stage, if I'm staging it, I'm going to tweak the Irishman. It's as simple as that. With that in mind, we're going to go into final thoughts about the play overall, as well as anything about that closing section as well. But I do need to start going around the room. Dan may disappear at any moment now. Thank you for your service. Helen, do you have any final thoughts about the play overall?
Yeah, I seriously hope that the Cobham family remunerated Munday and Co. heavily for this, because boy, they've done a job on the writing team have done a really first-rate job. I mean, I hadn't spotted the resemblance to Christ, but it's there without any doubt at all. I mean, they just couldn't have done better. I mean, because of exactly when it's written, the Irish stuff is very topical. Because of when it's written, I mean, there's an enormous amount more relating not just to Cobham himself, but to other characters who are getting callbacks from this play. Not only characters, but also situations I found in, certainly in the inn. There are callbacks to other plays by other people which were popular at the time. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's a caper play at times. It's a heist. It's a jailbreak play at times. It's good. It's got everything that it needs to be an absolute winner. The thing that slightly worried me is that it didn't have the ending that it really ought to have had. So obviously there was going to be a part 2.
Yes, and that cat was let out of the bag the other day, so it's not exactly a secret that yes, there is a reason why all the major characters survive, and the Oldcastle doesn't end up being the martyr that in theory it should be, because yes, we have records that there is a second part that comes out next year, so that is in mind, or this play has been adjusted to make that happen. So if we think of the Robin Hood plays that we were looking at, it's possible that originally the play ended with his ending, and that maybe this whole closing sequence has been a substitution. So he gets arrested by the bishop, and then it just goes straight through to martyrdom, and that this is just a way of moving things on. But that's entirely off the top of my head. I have no idea if that has any merit as a thought. But you know, it's that thing I was talking about. You were talking about the Christ imagery of just going. You know, I was making that theory up as I was going along, and then immediately we get into comedy hijinks immediately afterwards. So it's like, okay, no, maybe not.
Do we know if the Part 2 was written, or was it just in prospect?
I believe it was not only written but performed. I can double check that in a moment.
Right.
You know, we think it is definitely a thing. I can
But
look
lost.
that up. It's just lost. It didn't get printed, or its printing did not survive. Elizabeth, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just briefly to say that I completely agree with Helen that it was a damn good caper, and Lynn said the other day that it was a jolly good rom. I really enjoyed this play. I was a little bit surprised by the ending. I thought a few more people's heads would roll, but obviously we know about the part 2 that's lost to us now. I really loved the characters again, right up until the end. I found it interesting the way Lee came in, because Lee comes in quite towards the very, very end of the play, and then he still is quite developed by the end. So I thought that the development of the characters was very, very strong in this text, and it carried over well this week, because we've had a whole week of Sir John Oldcastle, and I think it's gone very, very well. I've really enjoyed it.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. This session today has felt to me like it's lost material some along the line. There are quite a lot more discontinuities than we had previously. Now, whether there's actual scenes missing or whether there's not that would have been dealt with by dumb show of big physical action, I think there is this question that we talked about before about whether the scene order is entirely kosher in this section. The one point I think I differ with you, Rob, on is that actually redoing the Irishman would remove a lot of the logical backstory of Lee Jr. If he'd been into Ireland, that's the explanation for the Irish servant.
It wasn't actually so much that element of it. It's more that they go, oh, look, there's an Irishman because he's murdered someone, kind of dialogue that really has to go. I'm really, even going, oh, it's from the period. I'm just not doing that. I don't see any reason why the elements of the rest could remain, but no. But you know, individuals are free to attempt other things if they wish to attempt the ire of the Irish. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Well, I'm going to be the negative Nelly today. So up to the end of the session yesterday, I was really having fun, and as Elizabeth says, the characters are so are so evocatively drawn, and actually it was jolly good romp was Dan's phrase, so like
Sorry.
So I'm just not that clever. But today just kind of has me irritated. And I think contrived, as Elizabeth said, is exactly the right word. There's so much contrivance in this last movement of the play that we just happen to have this murder take place near where the Cobhams are trying to escape, and they accidentally get accused of it. And Lee happens to be the one who discovers his own dead son, and the Powises just happen to be at the arraignment. Like, what? It's just kind of annoying me. And maybe in a different format where we're not stopping and starting at pace, as we say, those artificialities would be less obvious. But this whole movement just feels extraneous to me. It was like, this play isn't really long enough. Let's add some shit. And so I'm not as in love with this today as I was yesterday. Sorry.
The curse of the final session has struck on for Lynn. Rachael, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I was gonna say like that. Yeah, I agree with this last part about it being very contrived, and I wonder if it's kind of like this last section is supposed to be sort of like an interlude that would lead to the second part, even if the second part came out a year later. But like, if when that second part came out, they could rerun the first part into it, and do a sort of double feature. There's scenes in this that I really like. The Irishman scene I really don't like for that portrayal. It's not the same type of thing, but Zadie Smith, she wrote a book. One of the books that she wrote, there's a lot of times when people are writing and they note if somebody's, like when it's a white person writing, they note if somebody's skin color is different, but they don't talk about people's skin color if they're a white person. And she wrote a book where she only wrote, said something about somebody's skin color if they were white, to flip the script on that othering. And I think with this, it's not the same, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's othering of this Irishman, and that they're constantly pointing out that he's Irish, besides the fact that he's a murderer. That kind of fits into this xenophobia othering that they're doing, this system. What would you call it? This, I don't know. It's so, like, I guess a hallmark of othering to keep pointing out his thing, his othering. But some scenes from yesterday with the mini scenes with Wrotham and Dahl, I think are great little small things that you could take. I don't know. This thing is so complex, and I do like Anthony Munday. This last part did seem like it just went off and did its own thing, completely different from the other 2 days. So I'm a little like this, but just like this on that Irishman part.
I think it's fixable. I mean, that's my view on that front. But yeah, is the ending in its own right fixable in terms of what overall it is doing in terms of the overall structure of the rest of the play? Briony, you missed the middle section, as it were. I forgot to actually fill you in what happened during the middle section. There was some stuff. There was a rebellion. It got crushed. That was about it, really. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I should have asked, because I spent today being fairly perplexed, and trying to somehow marry what's happening today to what was happening on Monday. Not Monday, what day it was. Oh yeah, and that's it. I'm feeling generally quite baffled, really. I stand by one of my comments from the first session on this, and just add, whoever wrote this made several attempts at writing in a dialect, and I don't believe any of them were successful or helpful in any way, personally. But to the story, I don't know. It feels probably a lot more disjointed to me because I've missed the middle out.
Though to a degree, I say most of what we've done today has very little connection in terms of direct connection with actually the incidents of last time. Though the Cambridge Scroop Grey bit was a conclusion of material we had last time. The filling off of knots. Eric, final thoughts?
I don't know. I feel like, as Dan pointed out before he left, that it is one of those plays that need to be played at pace for it to be like basically to gloss over the plot holes, and also kind of to get for us to comprehend the arc. Although obviously we've said a million times that the Irishman is problematic, but as Helen pointed out, in the context of that time, it would have made sense for them to hate the Irish. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, do we do a second look? There's a part of me going like, you could do this as part of like, I don't know, Faversham type weird thing, like sort of a local production. I don't know.
Well, certainly in terms of second look, it's reasonably straightforward. I mean, we just have to flag up in advance that some bad stuff's going to happen here, which we do not advise putting in an actual production. So yes, the next play in this sequence, which would have been Sir John Oldcastle, would have followed in the following spring, as far as we can tell from Henslow's diary. There's various notes in the following years that people like Thomas Dekker might have added some additional bits and bobs to either this play or the other. So it does look like it was a going concern. For those wondering how the story ends, the reconstruction offered is that obviously Sir John's taking refuge with Lord Powis. The king offers a reward, and Powis betrays him, and Oldcastle gets burnt. So, cheerful, happy story. And burnt as a heretic, which is what he was. So, in a sense, would you have been happier if this play had ended with Oldcastle on fire? Rachel's nodding. Okay, who? Hands up for burning. Hands up for comedy hijinks and everyone escaping to Wales. And I see slightly more for Wales there. So without further ado, however, we are going to close this session. Thank you very much, everyone. Much to think on. It wasn't quite the curse of the third session, but it had its moments. All that remains to thank all these wonderful readers. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
For Kent's Too Hot.